My wife's always wanted me to watch some of these romance movies. This is the romance novel story that I want to see. Upgrades in real estate, how they leveraged it, what they did.
Oh, Matt, you're so romantic. Yeah,
it's so
but
romantic,
it fits for the rest of us. Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. We're so excited to have you and our guests today. That's right. There are 4 of us on this show, and I'm so excited because we've got a couple accents. We don't just have our nasally Chicago accent friends. No, we've got 2 new ones that I can't wait for you to hear. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Graeme and Leanne Carling. This duo is a married duo, and Matt is ready with his questions. They are award-winning. She is an author. He is an experienced and successful businessman. They've worked together inside of investments in real estate, building services, healthcare, pharma, tech. I mean, what don't they do? Let's dive in and hear more about it. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by SmartCookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Graeme, Leanne, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Welcome, folks. It's nice to have a fresh new accent on the show. That's what I'm going to say. So,
it really is. It really is. My mom will actually listen to this one. I'm pretty excited. More about that in a second. So tell us, how would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
When you quit your 40-hour-a-week job to start your business and you're now working 120 hours a week, you think you're going to be in charge of your hours and life's going to be easier. No.
No one said entrepreneurs have to be good at basic math, right? 40 versus 120. That's a very complex thing that we just don't get, And besides, most of us, I think that we're working that 40-hour week job. We're already working at night on a side hustle, or at least wasting a lot of brain space. Am I right?
But we get the possibly delusion of control, right? That's what we get. We get freedom and control. We're with you. We get it. Leanne, tell me, what's your answer? How would you finish that sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
When you bounce out of bed every morning, delighted to deal with any problem that comes your way, look at every opportunity and just love what you're doing.
Yes. Oh, I get that. What time do you bounce out of bed? I feel like there's a story there. I feel like I may have found my morning person.
We are usually morning people, and we start our day off with an 8K walk, which we call our morning meeting. And then people must walk past us every morning thinking, are they two fighting again? Because we're so...
Right.
We are usually morning people, but we've just came back from travel, so we've been struggling this week with a bit of jet lag, but we are usually morning people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Cause I'm like, oh, a new project, new something, 4 a.m. No problem. I'm there. I'm ready. I prayed for a kiddo that would be a morning person, and he is. And I think I didn't really consider my prayer. I really should have thought that through, because now I have like a mini me, like right here, ready to go to. I'm like, wait, wasn't expecting that.
So do I get to use jet lag, Nicole, when the kids try to wake me up at like 5:30 every morning and I'm like, I'm not really ready for this yet, and I'm just in jet lag mode? Can I still use that?
You could try. You could really try. Like that Dayquil commercial. Do you remember that dad tried to call off on his kid? He was like, listen, Bob, I can't make it to the meeting today. Yeah. Remember that one? I don't think it's going to fly. Yeah. Graeme, tell us, what do you do? What businesses do you own and manage together? It must take an 8K walk in order to get all of this in.
Well, actually, we've got 2 8K walks today. We've done one this morning and one this evening because we've got a lot going on today, and that's where we saw them. We've always worked in business since Leanne and I met. We met at work in mainstream employment, and we both quit our jobs full-time on the same day, which is back in 2007. So we have always worked together. People ask us, how can you work with your spouse, your partner, your wife, your girlfriend? We've never known it any differently. It's just what we do. It's not like Leanne does her thing and I do my thing. No, we've always done our thing. And that's still how it works to this day.
What a dynamic duo. So wait, the moment you met, you guys were working together?
Yeah. So this is before we quit our jobs and started our own business. We were working for the same company when we met together. Yeah.
Without identifying the company necessarily, could you tell me what field and then what were your roles in the corporate world? I'd like to know that too.
So I was the boss And I was the new boss. I just moved across to a new depot, met Leanne. She was a buyer working in procurement. It was a food distribution company supplying hotels, restaurants, and schools and hospitals with their food. One of the big South African company, pretty dominant in the UK at the time. So I was in the senior position, came in, new guy. Leanne pounced on me. You know, they didn't give me a minute. You know, so I had no choice. I had no chance, really.
So you stole my corporate HR joke. Were you asked to leave the company together at the same time, or did you voluntarily leave?
Funnily enough, they moved me from Glasgow in Scotland to London because I was effectively in control of salaries, and it was no problem for a couple of years. Then there was changes in the company, and it was frowned upon. But that wasn't the main reason that I left. It was because the market opportunity was right. And if we were right in what we believed in, then the time was to start a business now. And thankfully that worked for us.
And the discussions went a bit like Graeme wanted to leave, I wanted to leave, and he was saying, I'll quit. I know I'll quit. And we said, well, if we're going to do this, we do it together. So we both quit on the same day.
So tell me, what is your story? What led you to entrepreneurship? We find on this show that sometimes it starts way before the actual moment that you actually make this decision. Sometimes it happens as early as with a lemonade stand. There's something that gives you the confidence of where you are today. So tell us, what's that story?
Well, I think certainly the story for me was we didn't have any money as a family growing up. You know, we lived in a council housing scheme, low-income housing, and everybody before me and my family were the same. So we didn't know any different, to be honest with you. And we were probably one of the better off ones, but we didn't know we had nothing. As I was going through school, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I wasn't very academic. Then what you'd done was just the natural path laid out for us. You got a trade, you became an apprentice and went in the construction sector, and you became a joiner or an electrician or plumber or something like that. And I just blindly done it because that's just what you done. Everybody done that. So when I left the school, I became an apprentice joiner, earning the grand sum of £29.50 per week. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. And I was hopeless at it. You know, I was terrible with my hands. You know, I was terrible fixing things. I still am to this day. I still am. My dad always done reasonably well in the corporate world. And he managed to work his way up from just working on a building site, then being into demolition, to becoming a manager and a general manager. My dad kind of, from his housing scheme, dared to have a bit of ambition and get out of the scheme, you know, the barrio or the Bronx, whatever you want to call it, you know, get out of it. So he got promoted when I was just 16 and a half, doing my apprenticeship, and he became the managing director of a firm down in the south of England, and we all moved down as a family. I couldn't get an apprenticeship down there. Then I started working in a transport office and really loved that, using my mind environment. But the key thing for me in all of it was, no matter how much money or how more my dad got promoted, we never had any money. The arguments and fights that him and my mum would have every Christmas, every holiday, you know, he was desperate for his Christmas bonus, or we couldn't have any Christmas. I mean, it was hand to mouth, no matter how much. And I seen the pressure that that put on them, and the fact I said, surely I'm going to have to work for myself. So as I'm not in that position when I'm my dad's age. So it was also, there was something in me from the start. And I think my dad's view on it was very much, he couldn't quit his job and start his own business. His argument was, well, he had 3 kids. So because he had 3 kids, you know, he needed security, stability, money, and all of that stuff. And my view on it was very much the opposite. No way. If I'm going to have kids, there's no way that I can work for somebody else and be in that environment. No chance.
There was never somebody you saw up close or even on TV? Or was there anybody you ever saw that maybe his boss or somebody that owned the company? Nothing?
No, I was clueless to how they went about it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I took the leap of faith. I started my first small business in 1999. And by 2002, I had 3 failed businesses. And I was absolutely skint, penniless, had to go back to, you know, a job just over broke, mainstream employment, all that stuff. And that was a terrible time in my life. I was rock bottom. But it was in that moment, in 2002, I got the tail end of an Oprah Winfrey show when she was interviewing a guy called Robert Kiyosaki. And he was promoting Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I went and bought the book, and frankly, that for me was the light bulb changing moment. It told me, that book, as simple as it was, how much I did not have a clue about finances. I had zero financial education my whole life. So for 5 years, from 2002 to 2007, when I quit my job, I just made sure that I became as financially educated as I could. I read all the Rich Dad books. I was a member of the website. So when the financial market crash was coming and property crash was coming in 2007 and 8, I was ready for it.
I think you handed Leanne a book, Robert's
That's
Rich
good.
Woman book, right? So Leanne, did you have a business before?
No, I had a very similar background to Graeme growing up. Our fathers both worked in distribution companies, worked their way up to the top. My father was always have a safe, secure job for life. Don't get in debt. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. And I left school at 16 with no qualifications. I was very, very independent. Even growing up, my mum used to say, on the first day of school, I wanted to go on my own. She said, you were Miss Independent. So I moved out at 17, worked my way up the corporate ladder. And then in 2005, I met Graeme at work. And the first book that Graeme bought me was Rich Woman. Absolutely loved it. And then Graeme introduced me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad and all the other books. For me, that was a light bulb moment because I had worked my way through like loads of different companies, working my way up the ladder. And my dad would say, Leanne, you will be unemployable soon. No one will want to employ you. Why are you jumping from company to company? They will think you can't keep a job down. I was never unemployed, but I just was always looking for something better.
Yeah.
Like Graeme, I grew up in the council government scheme.
Yeah.
I thought my dad were well off. They tell me they weren't. But, you don't realise until you grow up and you have your own family. You mentioned author. So I've got a chapter in Kim's second book, Rising Time, and we've got our own book together.
What's interesting, I hear in the story, and I've heard this from multiple other entrepreneurs, I think where the book for Rich Dad, Poor Dad hits for some of us who maybe didn't have any influence of financial education is his rich dad became kind of like our rich dad. You know what I mean? It's like you're learning through these stories. And even though you yourself, like you said, maybe never had that influence or never had that example to teach you or whatnot, the book kind of hits you in a way to where you almost adopt into the fact that he's your rich dad and you're learning from him now and you're learning these principles and how to apply that. At least that's what I've seen in my life. And I've seen with a lot of real estate investors specifically that I'm affiliated with.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so tell us, so what is it that you own and work on today?
Yeah, the Kelling Group, we have a company, United Capital. We have a business here in the UAE, GCC Equity Partners. We've just started a joint venture in Florida, Tampa, with a company called Elevate Holdings. So we're acquiring surveying, building surveying and civil engineering businesses down in Florida area and Texas, where the guys are based. So we're pretty spread over. We've got real estate holdings in the UK and Spain.
So like, what are the differences in the companies? Like you said, GCC, give me a quick rundown. What does GCC do?
Well, that's private equity. So that's private equity businesses where we're looking for investment opportunities here in the UAE or GCC region. So mainly in real estate and building services. Our background in main businesses are in property, real estate, buildings, and looking after and maintaining and upgrading buildings. They're different businesses, but everything kind of is building related as our main businesses. We're now looking at opportunities across, healthcare, mainly dentistry, private hospitals. And again, it's working with partners. So we'll take an equity stake in these businesses who are going on a buy and build in fragmented markets. We're very much a partnership business where we'll take an equity holding in various opportunities.
Interesting.
So Leanne, your bit of your bio says you're now the M&A director at United Capital and that you have a track record in acquisitions and the Carling Property Group has become Scotland's largest privately owned landlord. To think, your parents had the way that it just was going to be this or that. And then for you now to be part of Scotland's largest privately owned landlords. I mean, that's a story right there. That's a movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting part is, believe it or not, we were going to Scottsdale, Arizona since 2008, 3 times a year to the Robert Kiyosaki seminars. We'd done that for almost 10 years. And we became friends with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. And one of the proudest moments for us was when they came over to our house, our home in Scotland. They've only ever been once. And we gave them the tour of where we lived when we met.
Yes.
In my grand's house, because we had no money. We gave them the tour of how we'd upgraded over the years. Because I think they just thought for years, who are these crazy Scots people coming across here? Just we
They
can't
can-
really understand.
They turn up every 3 months.
Yeah.
See, so it is a movie. You even gave them a tour. See, it is a movie.
Yeah.
It's like a small documentary. I knew it. And by the way, Matt, I mean, you better call up Robert and be like, I said you were our dad, our rich
Yes,
dad. I mean,
exactly.
they
Well,
actually reached out to bring him home.
I'm sitting there thinking, my wife's always wanted me to watch some of these romance movies, these romance novel type movies and stuff. This is the romance novel story that I want to see is upgrades in real estate, how they leveraged it, what they did. Like,
Oh, Matt, you're so romantic. Yeah.
It's so
But it
romantic,
fits for the
but it
rest of
is
us.
to me. See,
Yeah.
but it is,
Yes. Give us a little bit of the how and what it really takes to do this in marriage.
Well, first of all, when we quit our jobs, we had no equity. We had zero money, zero cash. We had enough money to live off of for 6 months, nothing to put into a real estate deal. So we had to find a deal good enough. And at the time when we quit our jobs, you were able to do a same-day refinance. It took us 6 months to conclude the deal. So we were running out of cash quickly. We managed to agree the deal. We got it through in the March 2008. So we quit our jobs at the end of October 2007 with 6 months' money to live on, or we had to go back to mainstream employment, and we did not want to do that.
We're starting to panic.
But we were working and things started to go in our favor. So we bought the first deal. We bought it from motivated sellers. We got it under market value and were able to refinance it the same day. So we'd done a bridging loan in the morning, but we agreed a refinance that afternoon. So the deal was good enough. So that gave us money out day one. It was cash flowing and we had equity still in the property. All we done was continue to repeat. So we started with no capital and we just kept reinvesting it. Then, the finance markets changed. They got tighter. You couldn't do same day. You had to wait a bit of time. Then we had to adapt.
Because not everyone was as responsible as you were.
No,
That's
no,
why
it's
those
not-
had to change.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we missed the halcyon days. We just caught the tail end of kind of the easy money. And we wish we'd have started years before it. But it kept us honest. We didn't have those days. We had to get the great deals
Yes.
from the start and not just think, we knew everything about real estate.
Well, every time the market changed, we had to be creative again. How are we going to make this work for us?
Yeah.
So, we had to
Right.
learn.
So you also had a baby at this time. Am I right? Baby
Yeah.
on the way, right? Wow.
Wow.
Do you ever look back at those two young pups, Graeme and Leanne, and ever think, what in the world? Or, I'd do that again.
Oh, something. We're sitting here today. We're in Dubai. The baby, my son Mitchell, is 16. He has left school. He's currently at our property down in Spain, bought his first business. He's 16. He's refurbishing it. It's a sports bar in the Costa del Sol. He's been going there since he's been born. He went to school there for a short period of time. So we don't look back now. We're kind of looking forward. We're looking at him. I don't think we've had time to look back at this.
And someone asked me this the other day, because I'll use the kids' ages and I'll go, right, when did I do that? Oh, no, well, my daughter, she's 13. I'll go, she was 2 days old when I bought that. That's this. No, and the gentleman I was speaking to was like, it's funny how you're using your kids' ages to identify when you've done something. So
Yeah, I call that mom math. Like, that's plain old mom math. Like, that's the only way the world happened anymore.
So when did the switch flip in your guys', I guess you'd say, diversification of assets to additional types of cash flowing companies, whether that be the surveying? What created this idea to go, you know what? Let's start tapping into more of these affiliated companies.
Yeah, well, it's natural progression, really. So we were buying properties. Then we started doing property developments. So opportunities were coming up for old banks that were closing down that can be converted into apartments, old school buildings, 200 years old that we can convert. And we were having to work with contractors and people doing that. And that was awful.
yes.
I mean, there were truly
That was all.
Trying to get all the contractors on site at the one time and, everything to happen.
That was my first business. I owned a roofing business, roofing, siding, windows, residential, barely any commercial, but I understand. And literally the way I won business was because I showed up. Like, that was it.
So then, as they were bringing in tougher and tighter regulations just around the whole, landlord,
Private rented sector.
private rented sector in the UK, the compliance side of it, and we were on the receiving end of a lot of heavy costs coming into us. And we were like, well, this isn't going away. This is only going to get worse. Energy ratings, the whole green energy, clean energy, all this stuff. We're saying, crikey, we're going to be able to hide nothing here. As one of the big landlords, this is going to be very expensive. We need to have some of the other side also. it would make sense for us to own the businesses that are actually carrying these activities out, not just for us, but for other landlords, whether it be private, government, social housing landlords. So it was nothing like Einstein. It was just, we need some of that. You know, we need to be both sides of the fence here.
I kept saying to Graeme, all I'm going to these guys. We need to be these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think I can go down a rabbit hole of different things, and I don't want to go too far. I mean, obviously, there is the inevitable that it was almost like one of those, you either progress and further develop, or you realize you might die because of, you were going to, not die, but you know what I'm trying to say, like the companies will start to suffer and suffocate. In the US here, I'm talking to a lot of investors right now, and the insurance crisis of last year, just all of these people who are buying whole type of people, they're getting squeezed so bad this year because the rates have went up tremendously. You're talking 37, 42, or somebody the other day, their rates are up 48% in insurance cost alone. And so it's like, you know, I think of just that one factor. I couldn't imagine being one of Scotland's largest landlords and being told, hey, by the way, you all need to convert to green energy just overnight.
And in Scotland, the buildings are really, really old. So, you know, there's a lot of improvements required.
Yeah, but for us, that was one part of it in terms of we needed to get big or get out. That was on a business side, but from a personal side, we weren't gaining enough. We kind of were running out of steam just buying properties. You know, like the multifamily model in the US really hasn't hit the UK. We're miles behind. So we're still kind of multifamily. We diversified into student accommodation and office buildings, which we still own. But it wasn't enough. We weren't growing at the exponential rate, and we were chasing cash flow. So we looked at the principles that we used to acquire real estate, absolutely what in terms of buying businesses as well. And I have to say, I like and enjoy the business side of it way more than the real estate side.
You say you were using some of the same principles that you learned in real estate, obviously, in buying and acquiring businesses or equity positions within those businesses. How are you managing, we'll say, underwriting guidelines and whatnot? If you're doing some sort of financing and flipping financing for more financing, or whether you're leveraging OPM and you're doing hard money to initially acquire it and then get the financing, I guess more of that how on those underwriting guidelines, because it's a little bit different when you have, frankly, real estate. I mean, you know, tangible real land. It's a little bit different when it's the books of a business, you know?
Each deal we look at is based on its own merit. So there is not a single rule of thumb. It's going to be 100% financed. You know, it's going to be equity into it, sweat equity. It's all the above, actually. A lot of people approach us looking for sweat equity, not necessarily the cash. Others are requiring more cash in order to grow the business. They've plateaued. They're looking to take it to the next level, don't have the means. Others don't have the wherewithal to do it. So it really varies from deal to deal and sector to sector. Some sectors, for example, the healthcare, is far easier to finance than other sectors, like even in the businesses, because it's classed as construction. So it really differs from sector to sector and deal to deal. But ultimately, for us, when we're underwriting it, it's way more difficult because we went to buy a roofing company. You like this one, Nicole? And we were miles down the road, 9 months in, one of the largest in England, great contracts. And at the very last minute, they'd not disclosed that there was a huge multi-million insurance claim in against them. And we spent 6 months, top lawyers, top financial guys, all of this, and this was not disclosed. I mean, we were never buying that company from day one, never.
Right.
So in terms of the lawyers and the team that we use, we upgraded our teams over the years and it never stops. We firmly believe, and to your detriment or to your expense a lot of times, that, you know, everything will come out in the wash in terms of when you're doing the diligence. It could be hugely expensive. You know, last year in particular for us, we racked up significant legal fees in abandoned deals that we did not do. Whereas you don't have that so much. You have
It
it.
makes Matt feel so good.
But we do believe the deals we haven't done are the best deals we've done.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Matt feels so validated right now. Go ahead.
I know. I'm like,
Just
oh
take
my
a
gosh,
moment,
folks.
just like all the lawyer love. We
Yes.
don't always give him that kind of lawyer love
Yes,
at all.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Oh,
you.
there
I
you
tell
go.
people all
Yeah.
the time that sometimes people don't realize it's not necessarily that lawyers are, we'll call revenue driving factors in business, right? What they are they revenue protecting factors. They look at other opportunities and they look at potential deficiencies and they help you protect revenue long term, not necessarily drive revenue.
Yeah, it sounds
Well spun.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, well spun. Well spun.
Well spun. Well spun
It's your
for the lawyer.
commercial for
Exactly.
yes. We'll
Thank
give
you.
you
And
the
I've done
split
now.
net so you can share it on your social media. Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that particular roofer because I don't want to get anybody in even a hint of legal hot water, but I'm going to have this sidebar conversation, Matt, and say that doesn't sound like they didn't disclose, Matt. That sounds like they just withheld and maybe
I was like,
hidden.
that was more, but just, yeah,
It
that
is.
was more of a, well, we'll see how far they can get down the path without having to tell them. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give that over here. We won't mention that it's that roofing deal. Yeah. Hey there, busy movers and shakers. I get it. You're out there conquering the business world, hustling day in, day out. Well, guess what? We've got something to amplify your efforts, something that's about to make your entrepreneurial journey even more exciting. Introducing our podcast production services, your ticket to sharing your knowledge and stories without breaking a sweat. We know your time is gold. That's why our team of podcast pros will take the reins, handle all of the behind the scenes stuff. From brainstorming fun topics, introducing you to incredible guests, polishing up those episodes, repurposing your content so you can share among lots of platforms. We're here to turn your ideas into a podcast that's as easygoing as your favorite chat over coffee. Imagine establishing your expertise and your authority, making connections all across the globe in just minutes a month. And the fun doesn't end there. Our data-savvy approach gives you insights that will help you fine-tune your content and connect with your audience even better than before. So join forces with a crew that's as enthusiastic about your podcast as you are about your business, the SmartCookie Media crew. Let your voice resonate, your stories inspire, and your ideas spread like wildfire. Level up your personal brand through the magic of podcasting, whether you choose audio only or video too. Are you ready to dive into podcasting? Your journey to share your knowledge starts right here because it's your voice, your podcast with our expertise. SmartCookie Media, turning your stories into conversations.
We all have had business partnerships, at least Nicole and I have. And I can think of sometimes when conflict occurs and there's conflict resolution that needs to take place. So I know in my own home, I'll say, how conflict resolution goes usually with me losing probably. How does conflict resolution work within the business when you are in a personal relationship?
So times do get heated and we do argue, but we don't really argue. We're very vocal people, but we listen to each other. We might not listen at the time. So I'll give my opinion and Graeme gives his. And it can get really, fraught and
Right. The other runners and walkers are ready to call the police.
We're just very, very passionate. I think to go back to when I first met Graeme, I loved that he was completely driven. He had this can-do attitude and will do it. And every goal that we set, we make sure that we complete it. But to answer your question, when we fight, we don't go to bed in an argument. So sometimes we're up for 3 days.
There's been a few times where, I've nearly thrown Leanne in the water and she's nearly me in.
That's what I was hoping to hear. That's what I was hoping to hear. Exactly.
Yeah, because I think what we want to hear, it would be amazing to get to work with the partner in life, right? Like they put up with all of our stuff already. My goodness, how great it would be to have that person to trust. I don't want to subject him to that just yet, but I think that's just it. Like it happens. There are arguments, there's going to be some compromises. I will go to bed and be like, this is going to look better to me in the morning. It's best if I just go to sleep now for everybody. I won't stay up that late, but that's because I was up at 3 or 4 a.m. But I think that's what we all want to hear is that it's not always easy, but you touched on a few things. It's his can-do attitude. Like if you were to give some attributes where I could think to people I've worked with, they didn't have that gumption or that drive that you talked about, right? That willingness, like I'm going to get it done, because you'd have to have some of that to know like the commitment is real of, hey, it's us and we're going to figure this out together all the way. There's plenty of couples today that said, well, we outgrew each other. Yeah, I mean, we're just in different places, but you'd have to know that the person who said it is driven to make sure that you're going to stay committed to that. And I think that's really special.
In the early days, when we actually worked for the distribution company, Graeme was my boss, and even then we were very vocal and passionate. And I used to get in my car at lunchtime and go for a drive because I thought I cannot look at him without, and I would need to go for a drive and come back and calm down.
We've been together that long. We've been through so much good and bad times, and really tough times in our life, and we've came through them together. So in that heat of the moment, and it's bad, and there's a massive disagreement, and no, we know that it will resolve. It might not be now, maybe a couple of days or a week, but we know it will get resolved. And what would generally happen is, if it was anything in relation to the business side, the call would be mine. If it was anything in relation to the property management side, it would be Leanne's. And I would say, right, it's my thoughts on it, but it's your call. So you make the call on it.
And I think we can bring it back to the very beginning. When Leanne, as you stated, couldn't keep her hands off you. You said, hey, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. To know me.
Pounce
to know
was
me
the quote.
is
Yeah.
To know me is to love me. So you got to know what's in my head. And if you don't want to read this book, you don't get a chance at getting with Graham, is what he was saying with that book. I'm pretty sure, right, Graham? Or no?
Conversion of the story, not mine.
Oh,
That's
his
right.
version.
That's right.
That was
That's
his
right.
version. Okay,
Yes,
that's right.
That's
I
right.
understand
That's
that.
right. Okay, let's get you wrapped up. What is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Maybe it's something that you find yourself saying again and again, like a mantra that maybe people know you for.
Well, I mean, it's an old cliche, but it's just do it. Don't spreadsheet it or think about it. Take action.
How would you define your entrepreneurial success?
I think just resilient. We're very resilient people, and you don't know until you go through it. You can't second guess yourself. We can handle adversity. We've had a lot of adversity, a lot of tough times, a lot of shit. How are we going to get through this? And I suppose that's probably one of the key strengths that I think that we've got. So it makes us less afraid of the shit hitting the fan. It's not pleasant, and you're not chasing it. I think we can cope with it pretty well.
Okay, what's next for you? And is there a link that we can link a few things to or that maybe you want to mention right now?
We can be contacted at thecarlinggroup.co.uk or Graeme.Carling on LinkedIn is always the best place to get me.
Yeah, I'm the same. Leanne.Carling on LinkedIn.
Thank you, folks.
Bye.
Nice meeting you guys.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in.
So, Matt, we just got done chatting with Graeme and Leanne Carling, a powerful dynamic duo, I think about sums up this entire episode. Let's jump in with a couple takeaways.
You know what's interesting is when you get in partnerships, I'm dealing with one right now, it's so easy to just kind of even what you said as to marriages. I know it sounds crazy in the personal side, but it's so easy just to say nowadays, like, whatever, I'll go my way, you go your way. We've grown too far apart, as you said. It's so interesting when you look at a couple like that, a powerhouse dynamic couple that is committed. Resilient was that word that they talked about entrepreneurial success. And when I look at them and they go, you know what, there was no other choice. Like we have to work it out. If we stay up for 3 days straight, we work it out and we move on. And that's something that, you know what, you don't hear about in business with normal partnerships a lot of times, let alone in relationships with 50% divorce rates, you know? I just thought that that was very impactful.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I think it's so important that they came from the same place, growing up, the same at zero, right? I think that, the market, they were well educated for that timing, right? They both had read the books. They both were ready to seize the day, basically. But I think it's really important that they came from the same place because I look at my own situation. We didn't have the same struggles growing up. And I think there's something really special to be like, we're not going back to that. They both were in council housing, which is our version of low affordable income housing, right?
Okay.
We're not going back to that. That is such a special, I think, connection to then say, which is how we can live at Grand's house, he says, right? Like right, how we can live with someone else, or this is how many houses it's going to take until we get somewhere is like, we understand we're not going back to that. Where somebody that maybe grew up with a little bit more or something like, well, this is okay. This is actually pretty decent. This isn't bad. What is that number? Is it $75,000? Maybe now with inflation, it's a little bit higher. That was uncovered that once somebody reaches that amount of income, there's no extra happiness if they get above it. Like they're not going to get happier. And so I think that if somebody grew up at that, like pretty consistent income growing up that life, when somebody else grew up without, they may not always get somewhere in the middle. Their drive is matched. Where they come from is matched. Their education on the real estate market is matched. I think it's really special. I think it's rare.
I do too. I think it's really rare. That's why I was like fascinated by them as a couple.
Yeah. And I bet you temperaments go into that. I bet you if we were to put them in a book, she is the integrator. I see that they both probably do a lot of strategy, but I just feel like she might, had been his integrator in the early days as they made all the pieces come together.
Definitely. What else you got?
Mom math.
Mom
math is real. Did you catch, like, we just kind of judge our life based on the children's ages. Like even when she says, hey, we closed on that when she was just 2 days old. I thought that was pretty funny that no matter where you are in life, when kids show up, that's how you do math. The other one is a lawyer joke.
Oh, here we go.
There's no time that I ever want to hear the attorney, the lawyer that I'm working with. There's no place I want to hear that he loses except one place. And it's that you lose at home sometimes. I thought that was really, really great that you admitted that. So just shout out to Ashley and the kids. They're doing the work to keep you humble, and I appreciate it.
Yep, they do a great job on it.
Well, folks, you know what we say. If you're listening,
Keep listening.
you've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at SmartCookie Media.